You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And tonight, the Golden State Warriors look inept again on offense as they fell 114-98 to the Miami Heat at Chase Center. Despite the Miami Heat coming off of a double overtime loss in Sacramento last night, playing on the back end of a back-to-back and still not having Jimmy Butler, they still outscored the Warriors by double figures in the first half and went on to win in a blowout. The Warriors just couldn't find a way to beat the zone defense the Miami Heat implemented for much of this game. A lot of that has to do with the shooting, and a lot of it has to do with the lack of Jonathan Kuminga. This team currently just does not have enough shooting or talent to consistently win in the NBA against any team, playoff caliber or not. We'll break it all down, but first I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. And thanks also for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed, making us your first listen following these Warriors games. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Charlie Walter does a great job. And from big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And as I said, again, the Warriors lose this one in the first quarter. I mean, you had a couple moments of good basketball, I guess, early on. The Warriors took a 6-point lead about halfway through the first quarter, but after that, it was all downhill. The Heat just continued to pull away. The Warriors did shrink the lead to just one in that fourth quarter before the Heat just went on a tear after that, hit 3 consecutive threes on 3 consecutive possessions to balloon that lead back to double figures and just never really looked back after that point. But really, this game was lost in that first quarter. I mean, the Warriors ended up trailing by 6 points going in to that second quarter, and then they were trailing by 12 points at the half. And early on, that was your opportunity to get ahead of this Miami Heat team. They're playing on the back end of a back-to-back, and not just any back-to-back, but a double overtime back-to-back loss last night, where obviously the Heat, they're going to, they got that Heat culture. They're going to be inspired to come out and play good basketball after a loss, with or without Jimmy Butler. But tonight, the Warriors really just let this one get away in that first quarter. You should have continued to push the pace. I don't know why the Warriors did not do really anything in transition today. I mean, I credit the Miami Heat for getting back on defense, but I felt like the Warriors, 7 fast break points against a team that just came off the back end of a back-to-back or is playing in the back end of a back-to-back, and you just came off a couple days of rest and you let them outrun you? That's insane. The Warriors needed to win the fast break points tonight. They lose 10-7 in the fast break points, 7 fast break points, not nearly enough for this team, especially a team that can't shoot. I mean, the 40% from the field, 28% from three, it's terrible. And I mean, this is more of what we saw in December, and we had kind of hoped that maybe the Warriors were going to leave these shooting woes in 2024, leave them in the past. And they're not doing that. They're dragging them along with them like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill. And Warriors, they're just terrible right now. Anyone that's not Stephen Curry shooting the ball from deep just looks awful. I mean, Dennis Schroeder, how bad does he look in this offense right now? He's taking he's stepping into threes in transition that are just not anywhere close. Earlier in this game, he took a shot in the first quarter at the end of the shot clock, just trying to beat the clock. So I get it, but he chucked up this three that almost went over the top of the backboard, like without hitting the rim first. That's wild to me. Like for a guy to be that off, who was having career highs in every single measurable shooting statistic earlier this season. The Warriors really did not get the version of Dennis Schroeder that they were hoping to get. This has been a tough year for Schroeder since coming to Golden State after starting the season just so good with the Brooklyn Nets. Remember when the Nets played the Warriors and Schroeder gave them 30? Man, why would love for that version of Dennis the Menace to show up for the Warriors, but he's just not there right now. For the Dubs, Steph had those 31. And TJD, we got to say, TJD had a very nice game tonight. He was 1 point away from tying his career high, but everybody else on this team was absolute hot garbage. Buddy Hield was your next, was the only other scorer in for the Warriors in double figures. You only had 3 guys in double figures: Steph with 31, TJD with 19, and Buddy Hield with 11 on 4 of 12 from the field and 2 of 9 from 3. Buddy taking an early shot clock heat check. The Warriors were, down in this one, trying to shoot their way back into this. This is not what the Warriors need in order to start winning games. You've got to have somebody step up. Buddy Hield, Lindy Waters, Moses Moody, and Dennis Schroeder. Moses Moody is still not really getting enough minutes to really make an impact, in my opinion. He needs to get more run because we've seen Buddy Hield is not going to really shoot his way out of this slump anytime soon, it seems like. Lindy Waters, another 0 for 4 night from three-point land. How many times are we going to run this back before we give Moses some more run? I mean, these guys need to step up. And, I mean, you're really seeing you never want to blame stuff on injuries, and I'm certainly not with the Warriors. Like, you got to find a way to adjust. But at a certain point, you just don't have the talent. No Kuminga, no Prizepicks, who wasn't having the best season so far anyways. I mean, he was playing better in recent games before he picked up that injury. And, of course, DeAnthony Melton, who's been injured for a lot of the season so far at this point. But missing those 3 guys is a huge, huge loss for this Warriors team in what they want to do in moving the basketball and keeping that offense flowing. Those guys are very solid staples in keeping this offense on schedule. And the Warriors have a lot of stagnant ball watching, ISO type offense right now. It's just not what you're used to seeing from this team. Tons and tons and tons of missed shots tonight. 40% from the field for the Warriors and 28% from three-point land. You took 50 shots from three-point land, shooting below 30%. That is never going to win you a basketball game in the NBA. And I mean, that was really the difference tonight. Like, the Warriors held their own in points in the paint. They actually won the points in the paint against Miami. TJD doing a lot of great work down there, battling for rebounds and second chance points, and really, finding spots to attack that zone. I thought they could have exploited that a little more. I thought they needed to operate in that mid-range zone a little bit more to kind of draw Bam away from just camping under that hoop and allowing those lobs to open up for TJD. We saw like 1 or 2 of them from Draymond tonight, but I thought that could have been something that they went back to the well on over and over and over again. They just could not hit anything from those mid-range areas to really draw the defense out from just camping under the hoop. I mean, you need to make some of those little 7-8 foot push shots and little banks in order to get Bam off his spot, in order to make him come out and meet you. The Warriors just weren't doing that. Or maybe start driving the paint. And this is where you really missed Kuminga, because you didn't have anyone to break that zone defense and start driving the paint with authority. If you had John Kuminga out there, he would certainly be doing that. And Bam would have to step up and meet him at least a little bit further out from the rim, because if you're meeting Jonathan Kuminga at the rim, that's probably not good for you as a defender. So missing Jonathan Kuminga tonight, a big deal for the Warriors. I don't know if that would have really changed the outcome in this, because they did get blown out. You lose by almost 20 again. I mean, the Warriors in the last 2 games have lost by, they've given up. The combined total lost by 40 plus points in these last 2 games. So, they're just bad right now, just plain bad. This team, again, just not enough shooting, scoring, or talent anywhere on this team. And without Jonathan Kuminga, again, you're looking at 2.5 more weeks without Kuminga, 9 more games. I feel like we got to have a Kuminga countdown at this point, because this team might not win a game without him. The Warriors are that bad without Jonathan Kuminga. And maybe this is the worst also thing that could happen to the Warriors, because now this front office is going to hold on to Jonathan Kuminga for their dear life, because they look so incredibly bad without him. I don't think that they're going to bring themselves to be able to part with him. So maybe, just maybe, there's a way that you can find a way to make a trade with maybe a Jimmy Butler and a Prizepicks and some other role players to maybe get Jimmy Butler away from the Miami Heat, because that situation seems very untenable, and the Heat don't seem to have very much leverage with Jimmy trying to force his way out of there. So I don't know what they're going to be able to get back for him. Maybe the Warriors can entice the Heat with some draft picks and maybe a Brandon Prizepicks, Andrew Wiggins, and who knows? Maybe they can get it done. But at this point, I feel like the Warriors aren't really going to have many options of what to do going into the trade deadline. Is any team going to take a flyer on injured Jonathan Kuminga? Maybe, but I think that the Warriors still need to make a trade. It's very clear without Jonathan Kuminga that this team is just talent deficient. Who is this team going to beat out in the West to make the playoffs? You're sitting down there with the Lakers and the Spurs and the Suns. Are you going to continue to outpace the Suns for the rest of the year with this roster? I really don't think so. And the Warriors, this ends a stretch of games at home where they were they played 8 of their last 9 at home, and they played of their last 9 games, they're 3-6 in those games, and they played 8 of those last 9 at home. And with the loss tonight, you're back down to 500 at Chase Center again. It's just not winning basketball. And I mean, you heard Bob Fitzgerald say on the very end of that of the broadcast that in the year that the Warriors won the championship last, they lost like 2 games at home the whole year. And the last few years, last year you were 1 game over 500 at home. Maybe the Warriors will finish about the same this year is what it looks like. I mean, that gravitational pull of 500 is just too strong for the Warriors to break free, man. I mean, this just is terrible basketball. You waste 30 burger from Steph again, and I mean, nobody else on this team is contributing. Andrew Wiggins, 4 of 10, he has not stepped up at all in the absence of Andrew Wiggins, save for the very first game where he went out. Andrew Wiggins stepped up in that third quarter. But Wiggins, 9 points tonight. Dennis Schroeder, 5 points tonight. Again, Schroeder, 2 for 10 from the field, 1 for 7 from three-point land. I mean, just terrible, absolutely terrible basketball. The only person who made more than 1 3 besides Steph was Buddy Hield on 9 attempts. He only made 2. So no three-point shooting anywhere to be seen on this Golden State Warriors roster. And wow, just let that set in for a second. I mean, how this franchise has morphed from, just changing the way basketball was played with the way that they shot the 3 ball to being this team that just is so inept offensively, cannot score, cannot shoot. And you still got Steph Curry on the roster. It's just wild to think about. Yeah, you lose Klay Thompson in the offseason, but Klay really was, not the same version of himself as he used to be towards the end of his time here with the Warriors. I'm not going to slander Klay here, but I mean, he was doing a lot of things that Klay Thompson isn't very historically good at. In this last year with the Warriors, he was taking a lot of pull-up shots off the dribble, and that's just not what you want from that guy. One of the best set shooters of all time, and you don't need him creating offensively with the ball in his hand, off the dribble. That's not the kind of player that he is, and that's kind of what the Warriors were getting last year. But point being, this Warriors team it's been a slow descent into this terrible shooting version of the Warriors that they are today. It's been painful to watch, man. I mean, Steph just looked, I don't even know what word. He just was like staggering around aimlessly at the end of this game after he got subbed out. He just looked like he was like searching for answers. Like you might find him somewhere on the Chase Center floor. He might jump up and bite him or something. Maybe there's something written on the hardwood he's trying to read or something. He's just looking down and kind of shuffling the feet and moving all slow. And he just looked despondent. I mean, the Warriors are just not a good basketball team. And tonight had to be so demoralizing because every time that you came this close, well, the Heat, they just go on a run. And let's talk about that next. The Miami Heat runs that really made a difference in this game. Every time that the Warriors got close, the Heat were able to pull away. What do the Warriors need to do to stop this? How can they stop these stretches? This seems to be something that has continued in recent games. And not only that, but the first quarter, man, the first quarter especially. How come the Warriors are always trying to climb out of a hole early on in these games? Let's talk about both of those things next here on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. And the Warriors definitely didn't cover tonight. I mean, you got blown out again by the Miami Heat. Second game in a row that this feels very, very, very similar. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Might not advise using those bonus bets on the Warriors covering the spread in the next few games, at least not until Jonathan Kuminga is back. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and today the Warriors just get absolutely blown out again by the Miami Heat. They win 114-98, going away in the fourth quarter in this one. And the Warriors, they got close a few times, and they would just go through these stretches where you would get, within you'd pull within 6, you'd pull within 5, you'd pull within 1 there at the fourth quarter, and the Miami Heat every time would just go on a run. They'd start making threes. It had shot takers and shot makers on that team. One thing that this Warriors team does not have, and to be honest, like I'm not really looking at the defense for these runs that other teams are going on, and that's kind of it doesn't really seem to make sense on it's kind of contradictory, it seems like, on surface level, but it's really not, because the defense can't get set if the offense isn't making shots. And the Miami Heat aren't necessarily, like tonight, they didn't run the Warriors out of the building in a track meet. They won in half court sets over and over and over repeatedly, but the Warriors are missing shots and then not able to get set on defense. And the Miami Heat are able to exploit those mismatches, something the Warriors absolutely cannot do for the life of them on the offensive end of the floor, despite them having a pretty good pace on the offensive end of the floor and then having some of those switches and mismatches. Just seems like the Warriors have not been able to exploit them this year the way other teams have been able to exploit mismatches against them. And that's something that this Warriors team historically has been really good at. We'd get somewhat a big switched out onto Steph on the perimeter, and he'd go to work, in that pick and roll game. It's just not really working out for the Warriors the same way anymore. And it's because I think, like tonight, you're seeing other teams just dare the Warriors to shoot the ball, especially from deep, and they're just going to lock down Steph and say, anybody else go out there and make a shot. And nobody has proven to be able to beat this defensive strategy on the Warriors. And so when you're going through these stretches where sometimes in NBA games, teams get hot and they just start making buckets. And the Heat clearly had moments of that tonight from three-point land. I mean, you got Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. You're going to have a lot of moments where you start to get, hot from deep with those two guys on the roster, shooting, being contagious, et cetera, et cetera. The Warriors, meanwhile, don't have a single soul who can put the ball in the hoop besides Steph Curry. And you got to be able to trade buckets at certain points in this game. You saw the Miami Heat able to do that. When the Warriors would start to try and go on a run to really get back in this game and recapture some momentum, the Heat, when they weren't able to stop Steph, they just started making threes on their own end. So their best defense against Steph and Curry was a productive offense. And sometimes you need that in the NBA. I mean, screw sometimes. You need that in damn near every game in today's NBA. I mean, the Heat scored a casual 114 points tonight, and that's not even like a high scoring game looking around the NBA. I mean, that's just another average night, and not too long ago that was a pretty high scoring game. And the Warriors, I mean, do not have the ability to really trade buckets and run up the scoreboard like that right now. They just don't, unless Steph is going out there putting up what do you need from Steph to win? 45, 50, maybe? I mean, I feel like even if he scored 50, we just have a repeat of the Hawks game last year where Steph scored 50 and they still lost in overtime. I mean, the Warriors just do not have the supporting cast around Steph and Curry to really get this done. And that's the main thing with this team. And so, again, this kind of loops into the other topic I wanted to talk about. If you're going to have these issues with trading buckets during scoring runs, well, then you got to take the advantages where you can get them. And for the Warriors, one of those clear advantages that you could have had tonight was a hot start. And the Warriors have not been very good at limiting teams in the first quarter. I mean, tonight, again, Miami Heat score 29 points in that first quarter. And you might be thinking, man, that's a decent amount of points for the Miami Heat to be scoring after coming off a double overtime loss in Sacramento last night. And I would 100% agree with you. But it's also very in line with what the Warriors have done all season long. They're 24th in the NBA, sixth worst. There are only six worse teams than the Warriors in their first quarter defense. They give up an average of 27 points per game, and it's bad. They're only scoring 27 points a game, in that first quarter. So you only put up 27 points in that first quarter on average, and you're giving up more than that, about 28 points in that first quarter. Tonight, you had to make that a little bit different. Like, the Warriors are not particularly good at doing either one of these things. It's scoring or defending in that first quarter early in games. But you got to be able to step up and when the moment's right. Like tonight, the Miami Heat should have been the more tired team. You're coming off some rest. Get out there and run, push the pace, and go get some easy buckets and find those mismatches. The same thing the Miami Heat did to you, do it to them. Don't let them just sit back there in that zone defense, in that nice, comfy 2-3 zone, and just hang out. And that's also playing zone defense. You're not playing as much on the ball, and it kind of keeps you a little bit rested. And so you saw these Miami Heat starters able to really just stay fresh all throughout the night and just wreak havoc. I mean, Bam Adebayo had a monster game tonight, 19 points. But, I mean, scoring came from everywhere. Alec Burks even had a nice 11 points. Jovic off the bench with 20 points. He had a 4-point play after Steph fouled him there in that fourth quarter on a 3-ball that he made. Jaime Jaquez Jr. came out of the gates really fast in this one. He was giving the Warriors fits as well. And it just, I mean, it wasn't really anything else other than the 3-point shooting in this one. Like, you want to look around for another reason that the Warriors lost this game, and it's really not there. Maybe you could have shot some more free throws, but who's gonna get to the line at all on this team? I mean, Steph has the worst whistle of anybody we've ever seen play the game of basketball at the level that he plays it at, and nobody else on this team is really going to drive the lane and get fouls. Andrew Wiggins did not shoot a single free throw in this one. You want to see Wiggs be more aggressive, get into the rim in situations like that. And again, this is where you really miss Jonathan Kuminga, because when the Warriors offense does go through these lulls where they can't shoot the ball and put it in the bucket, you still got Kuminga to be able to just get downhill, get to the line, slow the game down, and still get some points, despite the Warriors offense being a little clunky. You're really missing him right now. And I did not think that the Warriors would look this bad without Kuminga. Obviously, he's been playing great as of lately. I mean, he's averaging a career high in points per game this season, so he has really stepped up and shown a lot of growth this year. But I did not think that the Warriors would be really, really, really missing him as much as they are. And again, it really highlights how desperately this team needs to make a trade, because they are so talent deficient that it's just not working out for this team right now. And you got to shake things up again. You might just ride out these next 2.5 weeks without Kuminga, without a single win. Are you willing to go 9 more games without Jonathan Kuminga when the West is as jam-packed as it is? I mean, I think that this could really be the pivot point of the season. The Warriors need to do something. They need to react or die. And I mean, that's really what's going to happen to the Warriors. I think if they don't make a trade really within the next week or two, this team's done. Like, put a fork in them. Unless they go on a crazy, insane run in the second half that we just don't see coming, this really might be the end of the Warriors season. This Jonathan Kuminga injury, this 11-game stretch without Kuminga, could be the deciding factor. And so I'm just taking a peek at the chat right now, and I see my guy Danny Dunn, former coworker at KMBR, former producer for Papa and Lund in the midday show. We were just talking about the setup behind me and the changes that I'm hoping to make. And he's talking about how you can really see this corner right here on this wall. Don't worry, we're going to get this corner on this wall. So some Warriors art up there and things like that. You know what I mean? We got to get more dub stuff up back here. So anyways, also in the chat, my guy Jay saying, get Vooch now. And I mean, I like Vucevic. I think he'd fit in well with the Warriors. Don't know if he makes a big difference in this game tonight. And then my guy Stoney, what's up, Stoney? You and me have the same post-game activities, well, post-show activities for me, I think. Jimmy Butler and Steph win this game, says Stoney. And, you know, dude, you just might be right. So let's talk about this on the other side, because can't go a day on the Locked On Warriors postcast without talking about, the trades. I mean, it sucks having to talk the same thing every day, but it's what they need to do, and it's what we need to discuss, because it is so apparent that this team needs to make a trade. It's so painfully obvious. What is Mike Dunleavy doing? Let's talk about that next here on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is sponsored by Prizepicks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars than with Prizepicks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, Prizepicks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Think LeBron is going to drop 30 points, or maybe Steph's going to drop another 30 burger without Kuminga, or maybe Luka's getting more than 8 assists. Prizepicks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. And I've been using Prizepicks all season. Let me tell you, it is addictive. And I've been on a little bit of a losing streak here in the last 3-4 lineups. I've just been a miss. So I took tonight off. You know what I mean? I just need to hit that reset button. But we're going to get back at it in the Warriors next game on Thursday. We'll be right back in on the Prizepicks action. And now is the perfect time to join. Just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prizepicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and tonight the Warriors showed again why they desperately need to make a trade. And they made one earlier this year. They did some tinkering, some Farhan Zaidi-esque tinkering, where they went out and they got Dennis Schroeder, who didn't really seem to be like the earth-shattering type move that Warriors fans were hoping, but maybe there could have been something there. And so far, that has not panned out at all. Mike Dunleavy and Steve Kerr said that they wanted to see how the roster kind of shook out over the next month. They said that, about a week and a half ago at this point? Do you really need more time to understand what this roster is? You look at this roster, and I don't think that I'm nearly as smart as Mike Dunleavy or Steve Kerr when it comes to basketball. Those two know infinitely more than I do. But even my eyes, when I watch this Warriors team, can see that this team is not very good. It's not a matter of like the guys just need a mesh or you got these pieces and they're just not clicking. No, this team just kind of sucks, man. And you need to make a trade. If you want this team to remain competitive, if you want to not waste any more Steph 30 burgers like you did tonight, you got to go make a trade and make this roster better because it's not getting it done. I mean, Jonathan Kuminga is not going to be the savior for this team. He's not going to solve all of these problems. The Warriors can't shoot. They shot 28% from three-point range. How does that get better when Jonathan Kuminga comes back? I mean, Kuminga shoots better than 28% from three-point range, thankfully, but I mean, it's not like he's going to come in here and just start stroking them from deep. Like, that's not his game. You still need a shooter on this roster besides Stephen Curry, and you don't have one right now. Straight up do not have one. It was nice when Buddy Hield was on earlier this season. You saw how good the Warriors could be with a second shooter to play off of Steph. When Buddy was scoring like 20 plus, 15 plus a game, I think the Warriors only have one loss all season when Buddy has 15 or more points. So, I mean, you need a second shooter. I mean, you don't necessarily need Buddy Hield. It'd be great if he could step up and be that guy. But it just shows that when the Warriors have another guy out there who is making shots, they are really hard to beat. And you don't have that. You have Jonathan Kuminga, who is a nice compliment to Steph in the way that he attacks the inside and kind of opens some more things up for Steph. But in order to really unlock this offense, and frankly, in order to keep pace with the rest of the NBA, who can score at will at this point, just like the Warriors used to be able to, you need another shooter. You don't have one on the roster right now. And I don't know if Jimmy Butler is what they need as far as the shooting goes, but it's certainly better than what they have right now. And I have to think that there is something the Warriors can do to get Jimmy Butler out of the Miami Heat. It seems like the most logical fit. I mean, there are other options, like there are other teams linked to the Jimmy Butler saga, the Jimmy Butler drama, all that stuff. But I think that Jimmy Butler here with the Warriors would be a very good fit. I think it's very enticing to play alongside Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Steve Kerr. For Jimmy Butler, I think that would, to be coached by him, I think that's a plus for him as well. He's been with Eric Spoelstra for a while. He's not just going to go to some random coach on some random team and be happy with that. We've seen his issues with coaches in the past. Shout out Tom Thibodeau. But I mean, you know what Jimmy is, and he's a dog. We talk about this almost every show. And if you do pair him with Draymond, it gives you one of the nastiest 1-2 punches on defense in the NBA. It gives you an attitude on defense, and it gives you an identity. And this team, I think, does already have a little bit of an attitude, but like just a little one. You know what I mean? Jimmy Butler would change that. If you have Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green in the same room, in everybody's ears, teaching them how to go out there and get under people's skin on the basketball court and how to play physically, I think that that's going to set the tone for this team. And I think that the obvious talent that Jimmy Butler adds offensively is substantially better than anything else that the Warriors have right now. Yes, he might not be the world's greatest three-point shooter. Yes, he does have some availability issues in recent years. But how motivated has Jimmy Butler been the last couple of years in Miami until the postseason? You know what I mean? So I don't think that Jimmy would have some of those same issues here, some of those motivation issues. And I think a motivated Jimmy Butler is a bad dude. So I would like to see a Jimmy Butler in the chat. We got a Vucevic, recommendation as well. I don't hate that, although I do think that would cost a little bit more. So I mean, I don't really know what the Warriors are going to be able to do here. You have a talent deficient roster. And in order to get something back, you usually got to give up something. So they don't have a ton to give up. That's the other thing in this one. That's why I think that the Jimmy situation is the Warriors' best shot to get somebody back, because the Heat will probably be getting rid of him at somewhat of a discount compared to what you're going to have to spend to go get a Vucevic. So I really think that Jimmy's the way to go for the Warriors, even though he might not be the best fit, I think that it's still better than what they got now, and you have to try something other than what you're currently doing. Otherwise, this team might fall out of not just the playoffs, but the play-in entirely. It's all the time that we got for you guys today here on the POSTCAST. Thanks for tuning in today. This one was rough. The Warriors, they start a four-game road trip I said Ford game road trip. Maybe that was a little bit of a Freudian slip because they go to Motor City, Detroit on Thursday, start of a 4-game road trip, not a Ford game road trip, but a 4-game road trip. And the Pistons, I mean, they are the Pistons, but they have been playing pretty decent ball lately. So don't overlook this game. This could be another loss for the Warriors. You look at the schedule coming up for them, and you want to say these look like some winnable games. But with the way that this team has been playing, they really don't. You got Detroit, then Indiana, then Toronto, then Minnesota, and then you come back home versus Washington. And how many wins is in there? Maybe 1, maybe 2. We'll see what happens for the Warriors on this road trip, but I don't think good things are afoot. I think it's more issues without Kuminga. You got to find some kind of way to start scoring the basketball other than just Steph. I mean, Steph can't just have 35, 40 every night, and then the Warriors still go out there and lose. You don't have many more of these Steph 30-plus games left. You got to make the most of them. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.